So that's one area, just to say, okay, now that I realize I'm spending $500 eating out in a month, let me see how I can channel that back. But secondly is making sure you have a written budget. That's that. It sounds really simple, but every day we see people who never have had one and they've been around. So even though it seems like sometimes the problem is not as big as people seem to think that it is. Oh, money is tight. Sometimes money is not tight. It's how you're managing. That's the problem. So it's the same. We take the same money that they've already had and we turn that around and just free up cash flow so that they can redirect it to more important things that they say are their goals.
Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting show, the About That Wallet podcast, where we help the sandwich generation build strong financial habits so that they can spend money, talk about money, and enjoy their money with confidence. And today, I have a person who is a 3-time author, a professional speaker, and very passionate about families and helping them achieve financial security, which really aligns with this podcast. And her name is Brianna Colon, and I just want to thank you so much, Brianna, for coming on to the show. And how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Awesome. Great to hang out with you today.
Yeah, we had a great laugh.
Yes, absolutely.
So, definitely. One of the things that you talk about in your books is about religion and also finances. Mm-hmm. What is the common theme that you found where the religious piece has really made such an impact for someone's finances?
Well, it's impacted, even just for me personally. I can speak from experience of how having my faith in God has absolutely had a direct impact on our finances, how we make financial decisions, how when we pray for things, and that are related to finances, like we prayed for and we asked God to help us to find a new place to live when we moved from one part of Maryland to another part of Maryland, and we had to make a decision. We were selling our house, and then we had to, when you're in a new area, you want to rent. So anyway, long story short, we prayed and asked the Lord to help us find a new place to rent. Now, this is an example of where we didn't listen to God, but had the importance of the spiritual aspect of it. And I'll bring it full circle. So we were looking for a place to rent and couldn't find anywhere. Everywhere was so expensive because where we were moving, the price of the houses were like twice as much. So, but that's the beauty of having God the Father, because if he can create a whole heaven and earth, what makes us think that he can't find us one house that fits within our price range? But at the time, we were still growing spiritually, which that's a lifelong journey. But at that point, we were getting down to the wire because we're a military family, and we felt like, oh, we haven't found anything. We just got to make a decision. So we signed on a dotted line for this house that was $2,700 a month to rent. Didn't even like the house. And not even a few days later, this lady reached out to us that I had inquired with, but had not seen pictures of the house. She didn't get back to me. So I just assumed it was no. So she got back to me and said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get back to you. But here's the pictures of the house. And the house was exactly what we were looking for. It was $1,800 a month, which was exactly what our mortgage was at the previous house. Had we just waited, we prayed, but we didn't wait for God to answer. But had we waited, we would have been able to capture that. So fast forward a few years, about 10 or 15 years later, we went to sell the house that we bought later and then, buy another house. But anyway, this time around, we learned our lesson spiritually. We were like, okay, we're King's kids. We understand the power of prayer, and we are going to wait. We're not going to be impatient and not be in microwave society. So we did. We were determined at the time. They told us for real estate, oh, you're probably going to have to overbid to get the house and that kind of thing. And so we decided we're not doing that. We're King's kids. We don't have to operate that way. So we didn't. We ended up selling our house and had several people overbid for our house, but the house that we bought, we did not pay a penny over what they asked for, and got money back at closing. Yes. So I'm just saying, as a personal witness, that's just one of many accounts that I have in my journal of how God has had a direct impact in our lives financially. And we have seen with our clients in working with them one-on-one many, many times where they come in and they feel like they make good money. They don't have enough to show for it, but they're coming in trying to be better stewards. That is their goal. And as Christians, I have watched God bless them to where before money was tight, and as they're making these adjustments and strategies that we're asking them to they just start having blessings out of nowhere. People just, they're getting promotions that weren't expected, or some surprise check or something that's happening. And they fully understand that it's the power of God working in their life, that because they're becoming better stewards and striving for that, that leaves the room that, okay, now I can bless you in this way because you're going to be able to handle it. You're going to be able to handle what I'm trying to give you. So I'm going to shut up right there.
Oh no, that is. I mean, so you keep going because it is one of the things that it goes back to your motto of your business, which is change your mind, change your money, and change your life. So, can you talk
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more about that process?
Yes, yes. So that is exactly how we help our clients. Our mission is to empower families to financial freedom using mindset and money strategy. So that motto, change your mind, change your money, change your life, absolutely ties directly into the end result. If we want to be able to see something different, we got to be willing to do some things different. It's one thing to just, oh, I just need to get on a budget and I'll be fine, or I'm gonna just file bankruptcy and then I'll just start fresh and I'll be good. That's not enough. That's a band-aid.
Yeah.
If we don't change the habits that led to the issue of the finances being tight, then how do we expect to have a long-lasting result? We can't. So it's important to get to the root issues of why I'm not where I feel I need to be financially at this point in time. You may have someone that on the surface may say, like I had a client that said, well, I was unemployed for 7 months, and so that caused me to get behind on the bills, and it just caused a ripple effect and everything. Now that might have been an additional condition, but the root issue is you're not a saver. Because if you were properly saving and understood how to save from the beginning, that 7 months would have been a welcome vacation. It wouldn't have been a stress out, I can't pay my bills. So it's really, really important. And this is the reason why people end up filing for bankruptcy twice. Because, it's easy to say, well, they didn't learn their lesson the first time. No, they just didn't understand that they needed to get to the root issue of the money habits that have contributed to them being in their own way
Right.
financially.
And because we talking to the sandwich generation here, which means that they have kids to take care of, and also they caretakers of their parents. What strategies for the people who are tight right now to look even for retirement to kind of breathe a little bit? Like, what strategies would you, I would say, suggest for them? Because we can't recommend, because we have to work with you to get some recommendations, but as a suggestion.
Right, right. Well, one of the things that I find is very common with a lot of people is using the debit card. A lot of people have just gotten comfortable using the debit card for everything. Everything is swipe, swipe, swipe. But the problem is it gives us a false sense of what we're spending, because we tend to get comfortable and feel like, oh, it was just $20. It was just $10. It was just 15. And before you know it, it was actually 400. It was actually 800. So one of the things that's a practical thing that they can do is to go back and look. If you're a debit card user and you don't cash and carry, go back and look at 2 months of bank statements and write down the categories for, we're not talking about the bills, we're talking about everything else you spent money on, and break it down by category and look at how much you spent on gas, how much you spent on groceries, on shopping, on eating out, and you will be surprised at what you find out. People get amazing the we this is part of the homework process that we have our clients actually go through, but this is something practical people can do. But the point is, when people do this, they come back looking at it like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm spending this much money in this area. What, I can't believe I gave $300 to doggone Starbucks. What was I thinking? They just really don't realize. So just that little simple exercise raises your awareness to say, all right, I'm really tripping. Let me pull back in this area. So that's one area, just to say, okay, now that I realize I'm spending $500 eating out in a month, let me see how I can channel that back. But secondly is making sure you have a written budget. That it sounds really simple, but every day we see people who never have had one and they've been around. So even though it seems like sometimes the problem is not as big as people seem to think that it is. Oh, money is tight. Sometimes money is not tight. It's how you're managing. That's the problem. So it's the same. We take the same money that they've already had and we turn that around and just free up cash flow so that they can redirect it to more important things that they say are their goals. So sometimes it's just you're so used to seeing it the way you're seeing it, it's hard to capture anything different or see the problem. So if they do that, those are just two practical things of Let me pull 2 months of bank statements and see what I've really been doing and how can I pull back in that area. Maybe I actually could free up money that I didn't even know I could. That's one thing. And
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, those are really good practical tips. And I'm trying to think of somebody. So, say if they have you ever had anybody that actually faltered? Like they went through the program, they was like, "Oh yeah, I love it. I'm doing the thing," and then they failed again. What was the reason why they relapsed?
So the money behavior would be the reason. We have had maybe a couple people, few people that have had gotten on a good path, and we had gotten to where I was only seeing them maybe every 3 months or every 6 months. We have a graduation process here.
Okay.
So, but then they had a relapse, and it really was the one. I'll give one example for the family. It was a money behavior issue of emotional spending, making major financial decisions from an emotional state of mind is an issue for some people. And trying to overcome that habit, it takes time, which is why this is like a long process because you didn't get where you were overnight. So you're not going to get out of it overnight. But you have to have enough life circumstances happen to practice that new habit that you're trying to create. And in this case, emotional spending. So for that particular family, they had a major family event where a family member had gotten sick and was in the hospital for an extended period of time, and that caused them to, oh, I'm just dropping everything because the family member was in the hospital in a different location, and it wasn't feasible for them to just be driving back and forth. So then it became, well, now we need to get an Airbnb. Now we need to. So without even really sitting down to say, let me use my planning tool, let me not forget all the stuff that I just spent a year or two learning. It was just the emotion of, oh, I got to be there. I'm going to do whatever's necessary. And so that caused them to quickly start draining the savings that we had built, and having more credit debt again, and so those types of things. And so now they were able to come back, of course, and we were able to address that and kind of get back on track. But that's just one example that can cause a person to be derailed if they don't take a minute and just say, let me just hold up, wait,
Right.
don't just rush and do stuff. I did learn some things.
Yeah, because it goes back to the emergency fund. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on that common theme from the one person with glasses that's bald headed? Like to say that you only need $1,000 to for your emergency fund. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I disagree.
Okay.
I object, Your Honor. So it's $1,000 is the first goal. If you don't
Mm,
have any money saved, people have the right idea of, I know I should save money, but we don't always do good with saving with intention. Knowing what is the number I should be striving for? What's the magic number? Sometimes we can get to 10,000 and think we've done something. That's an accomplishment, but that's not enough. So the first goal should be $1,000. If you have no money saved at all, I got to at least get to 1,000 as soon as possible. The next goal after that would be to look at, again, going back to the budget, which is your planning tool, to see how much money do I bring in, what are all my expenses, subtracting that. And so when you're looking at all of that, how much money does it take to run your house? We know your lifestyle number is what you're used to living off of, the full amount of the check. But what is your necessity number? If you were laying out all of the bills, the groceries, the gas, everything that needs to be paid for, that has to be paid for in a given month, and you lost your job tomorrow, what is that number? And whatever that number is, that becomes your next goal. That is my 1 month cash reserve goal. So once you have gotten to that goal, then you keep going. 2 months cash reserve, and it allows people to, again, to start saving with intention, because now that I understand that, now I can figure out how much money can I allocate to savings consistently every month. And now I can set a goal date. People don't set goal dates like they should, which they make savings optional. Oh, well, yeah, I'm not going to save this month because I had to take care of so and so and so and so. They devalue savings, but saving money is just as important as getting out of debt.
right.
And when people get a lump sum of money, what do they do most of the time? I'm gonna pay off this, and this, and I'm gonna spend this, and this, and I might save $50. What?
Right.
That's backwards. No, if we get a lump sum of money and we don't have any money saved, we better be thinking about the savings, because we don't know when an emergency is going to come. We don't get a heads up advance that the emergency is coming. So what happens if we put all this money on the debt, and now an emergency comes, we didn't save nothing, and now we're right back in debt again, and then the cycle continues. And we see that a lot with people. So anyway, the point is that you continue. And so But I used to say a 6 month cash reserve. But now that we've seen clients that have been out of work for extended periods, now we say 12 months. I call it the peace of mind package. And it sounds like a lot of money, but that doesn't mean you got to have it all in a savings account earning point nothing percent. It
Right.
just means that you have liquid cash that's accessible to you. If you're making $100,000 a year, you should have way more than $10,000 sitting in your account. That's a
Right.
great start if you're used to saving, but you got to keep going. If you start thinking about that, wait a minute. If I'm used to taking home $6,000 to $8,000 a month, how long is $10,000 going to last me? A minute, a short
You
minute.
got that right. Yeah.
Just a short minute, but people don't think about it from that perspective because many are not used to having lots of money. Like sometimes I tell clients, sometimes you got to give yourself permission that it's okay for you to have $50,000 just sitting up. It's okay for you to have 75,000. Like it's okay. You making 100,000 a year. Why can't you have 75,000 saved up?
Yeah.
But it's sometimes it's that simple for it to click in people's minds, change your mind, is just giving yourself permission. It's okay for me to have a lot of money. It really is okay. I'm not working just to pay bills.
Love it. So we're going to move into the third segment here, which is the futures. And what do you see has been like in the trajectory, the way how things are going? How do you see that the sandwich generation can move to a place where they have the most confidence? Like, are there any strategies, AI tools, like any new systems that you can think of that could kind of help people solidify their futures?
That's a good one. How to solidify their future. Um, I don't know of any AI tools. I'm still getting into the AI portion of the world, but
It's okay.
technology. But in general, the best way that you can solidify your future is to make sure you have a solid financial plan. Because if you have a financial plan, then you also have peace of mind. You know where you are now, you know where you're headed, you know where you're going, and it allows you to position yourself to always have a choice. When people start planning towards future as far as like retirement and whatnot, um, they again, this is another area where people have the right idea but don't always know how to do things properly. So we have the right idea of we know we should put money aside so we can have money in the future, whether we're investing it outside of retirement or whether we're just putting money aside for retirement. But we don't always know if what we're doing is going to get us where we need to be. That's a whole different thing. It's one thing to have an investment account or a retirement account, but if you don't have a retirement plan, then what are we doing? You're just throwing money in and hoping for an end result. We don't have to hope for the end result. We can actually plan and know what the result is going to be. So that is protecting your future. That is how you prepare is let me make sure that I am solid and that I understand how do I eliminate debt? How do I move to a place of financial freedom both now and later? I want to be able to live life on my own terms.
Yeah.
Do what I want to do when I feel like doing it.
Because I mean, like you said, it's having those options to do what you want to do.
Yes, positioning to have the choice.
Yeah.
That's key factor.
Right. Now, do you have these conversations with your parents too, or your husband's parents? Like, far as like, what are y'all planning on doing in the future? Like, are they going to stay with y'all? Or are you going to put them in like a assistant living? Or are you going to
I'm
just
putting
get
them
like
in
a
the
little?
nursing home.
Oh, get out.
Okay.
He's like, you ain't staying over here. Like,
Y'all can stay with me. No, I'm kidding. But no, yes, we absolutely have had those conversations, and that's a good point that you're making about the fact that we should have these conversations with our parents. Sometimes that's the hush hush conversation.
yep.
Oh no, I don't want to tell you all that because you're trying to kill me off.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? So yes, we did have the conversation of what do you have in place for if you have to go into, well, what type of care do you want to receive? If you get
There
to
you
a
go.
point that you can't take care of yourself, do you want to go into assisted living facility? Do you want to have a caregiver come into the home? And once we know the answer to that, then the next question is, well, we know how much that is going to cost. Where is that money coming from? Do you have a long-term care policy? Do you have enough in your retirement assets to cover all of those expenses? Is that going to come out of my pocket? I need to know in advance because I didn't
Right.
plan that in my financial plan. That wasn't in there.
And in my
But
retirement plan. Right.
all right, it's not in my retirement plan. But we are planning as far as in our home. having a suite on the main floor so that if any of our parents need to come and live with us, then we're prepared from that standpoint to be able to take care of our family. And actually, my father, he passed away a couple of years ago. I actually did have to have him come and live with me. But prior to that, years prior to that, I actually sat down with him as well and said, hey, do you have a will? What do you have? And he had none of that in place. He was doing great financially. He didn't have any debt, but did not have a will in place. So I helped him to get a will. That's another area that we need to know
Yeah.
as the ones that are taking care of our parents in the future. Those are hard questions to ask sometimes, depending on the nature of your relationship, but an important question to ask because we don't want to be scrambling. It's enough to already be grieving when you lose a loved one, but it would be nice for them to have their stuff in order. Get the estate planning done. Do everything that you need to do so that all of your finances are in order. Do you know what life insurance your parents have? Are
That
you
part. Yeah.
are they putting an executor on the estate? And sometimes even when they have life insurance policies, they don't always. Not all of them have had good policies.
That's true.
We had a lady that her a client of mine whose mother was 79 at the time, and they were trying. Her and her siblings had been trying to have conversation with her about her important papers, if you will, and she was not really trying to talk to them about it. It was, one of them things, the briefcase is in the back on the back porch, don't
Right.
touch it and don't ask me. So anyway, she had been working with me and asked her mom if she would be open to talking to me. And so mom was open to meeting with me,
Good.
and we sat down and looked and went through all of her stuff and come to find out her insurance policy was going to expire at 80 years old. And she was
Wow.
79. And we were like, are you serious right now? That was such a blessing and God's timing on me meeting with her because, who wants to be finding out at 80? Oh yeah, by the way, sorry, your
Right.
policy's done. Sorry. Or if we let you keep it, you're gonna have to pay $1,000 now instead of maybe the $100 you were paying before. So we were able to fix that and get it all switched around. But I'm just again stressing the importance of having people that making sure that you look at your parents' stuff and make sure they understand what they have, because some of it they got a long time ago. They got it from brother such and such who was selling insurance, and they were just doing helping them out, and they didn't really understand everything. In fact, I got one more example, and I'll shut up. I have a client that just reached out to me within the last week whose father is 84 years old, and they're now having to keep paying more into the insurance. The policy keeps going up, and there's no end in sight. It's going to keep going up every year. And they were trying to decide, we put all this money into it. Do we keep it at this point, or do we just, try to suffer through and keep paying on it? Like, you shouldn't have to be making those kind of decisions with your parents at 84 years old. What in the world?
Right.
So please have that conversation, hard or not hard, because eventually you become the parents to your parent. So it's important to open up that dialogue. Hey, I'm just trying to look out for you and want to make sure that if there's any areas of deficiency that we address that together so that we make sure you have all your stuff in a row. I got all my stuff in a row, and we're all doing great financially.
Love it. Is there anything you want to leave the person that's listening to this right now before we dive into the final four?
Anything that you want to achieve financially is possible. Sometimes people will uh, be afraid to voice the things that they really desire and really want because they feel it's so far out there that it's not okay. And I don't know at all, based on my current situation, when am I going to be able to achieve it? Your current situation is your current situation. You have the ability to change. Being broke is optional. You don't have to be in that particular place. Wherever you're at now financially, is not where you have to be in the future financially. It's important to get with, if you don't know how to do it on your own, then it's important for you to get with a financial advisor that you can trust so that you can get a solid plan. Because I'm telling you, whatever you want financially is possible with a good financial plan. You just got to be willing to change your mind, change your money, and that will change your life.
I love that. Full circle here. Like,
That's what I do,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you ready for the final four?
Sure.
Alrighty. Number one, what does wealth mean to you?
Mm, love it. Wealth to me means being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, live life on my own terms continuously. Because if I'm doing well,
Hmm.
continuously, then that means those that are attached to me will be doing well continuously because I can't take it with me when I die.
I like
So,
that.
but if I want to take a trip and not have to worry about pinching pennies, if I want to take a first class trip every time, I want to be able to do that. Or making work optional. All that fits into the same category where work is optional, but I'm only 50 years old. Like that's
Yeah.
creating wealth, the ability to live life on your own terms continuously.
I like that. Number two, what was your worst money mistake?
Well, that's a good one. Having 7 credit cards in college.
Ooh, in college. Wow. Okay.
I didn't grow up learning about money.
Right.
And even though my parents were doing fine, that's a cultural thing. We didn't always know everything that we're supposed to teach. Of course, parents do the best they know how to do, but the financial area weren't things that they taught me. So I just learned on my own and signed up for every credit card they offered me in college. They offered me free stuff in exchange for applying. So I just thought it was a good idea.
Right.
And before you know it, I had 7 credit cards. But I was working, and so I figured I got my own money. I was playing. I was a musician and a choir director, so I was making my own money and figured, oh, I'm fine. But it almost cost me marrying my now husband because we went to look at the finances and said, hey, he was like, you got a lot going on here,
Right.
and he almost didn't marry me because of my debt. But luckily, I had enough of everything else going on that he married me anyway. And now here we are 30 years later. But we worked
Congrats.
together to get out of debt, is the point. So, but 30 years later, we're still together. It'll be 30 years this coming July.
Congrats. Congrats.
Thank you. And I'm
Um,
still 30 years old. Look at that.
yeah, I know, right? It's flawless over there.
It's amazing.
This is a side question though. How
Mhm.
important is our parents when it comes to their child's finances?
It's very important because if you don't teach them, it's either taught or it's caught. It's one or the other. Either they're going to learn by you teaching them, or they're going to catch your bad habits because they're around you and they're learning everything you do. We have seen generational curses going on within our organization and our families because we encourage our families to make it a family affair when they start this process, especially for those living with them. We tell them, look, you need to go ahead and tell your kids that you're going on a financial path and that they may be impacted by these changes, so they need to govern themselves accordingly. So yes, it's a very big deal. What you do and how you manage your money is a very big deal as it pertains to your kids, and there are things that you need to be teaching them along the way that can help them to learn and be more open. Sometimes parents aren't open about it, especially if they're not doing well, but it's important to let the kids see. That helps them learn and prepare for adulthood. And sometimes you'll find they'll keep you more accountable than you can keep yourself. Ma, you
Come
said
on,
we were
man.
only spending $200 on the groceries, and you had 260. You had to register embarrassed. Like, shut up.
Talk about it, right?
Somebody asked you, shut up. But you said shh.
Hmm.
So I think it's the role that we play in helping them to learn about money absolutely impacts how they manage money as adults. Because I have absolutely seen moms manage money terribly, and then it trickled down to the adult children that I meet with too that also manage money terribly. So if we can make changes and adjustments now, even if it's teaching them to not do what you're doing, that's still helpful. That's still teaching. It's still meaningful.
I like that. Thank you.
Hmm.
Number three, is there a book that inspired your journey or changed your perspective?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Our mind, it's amazing. The brain is amazing. And the things that we're able to visualize and eventually materialize, cause it to become a reality later, is amazing. And I think if we really understood how the brain works and the control that we do have, the things that we can think about and visualize, many people would probably be a lot further than they are. I used to visualize a BMW before I bought one.
Nice. Nice.
And not just visualize like, oh, that's a cute car, but I mean like spend time with my eyes closed, thinking about what it would feel like once I got in the car. I was seeing myself in the car. Like I had the shades on. I was
Oh my
looking in
God.
the rearview mirror, looking at myself. I had the top down. I mean, like I was chilling.
Right.
And I actually had forgotten because I spent time, like just a few minutes a day visualizing, thinking about it because I was like, this is on my vision board and I want one.
Mm-hmm.
and then it took some years before I bought it. But by the time I bought it, I actually had forgotten that I had been thinking about it actually because I had stopped thinking about it and moved on to other stuff. But then it hit me one day after I had the car and I was like, oh, I had been visualizing about this thing. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at that. Look at that. But just amazing that, the things that we think about, everything starts with a vision. This company I have right now started with a vision. I knew I wanted to be able to help people with their finances. And I wanted to really help the people who would not ordinarily pick up the phone and say, I need a financial advisor, that middle group. So, and God has done just that, that we has allowed us to just help people to change their financial life in ways that they never knew was possible. So that whole visual thing, oh my goodness, yes.
Right. I love it. I'm gonna
Please
have to.
do. Visualization, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to make that
Think and grow
that a segment.
rich.
There you go.
Yes, think and grow rich.
Number 4. What is your favorite dish to make?
Well, that would require you to actually like to cook. Okay, my favorite dish
Okay.
of the handful of dishes that I cook is macaroni and cheese. You
Okay.
can't touch me on the mac and cheese. I mean, you got to complete the meal with some baked chicken, maybe some green beans or something like that. But the macaroni and cheese, not everybody can make good mac and cheese. But
Yeah,
mine,
you're
oh,
right.
can't be touched. Can't be
Mm,
touched. I haven't had anyone yet that's like, oh, what is this?
right.
So if there's a competition, for all you macaroni lovers out there,
Oh,
sign me up.
okay. All right, so y'all
Yes.
heard it. I mean, if y'all gonna make some macaroni and cheese, look, just tag me in those photos, and then I'll
Right?
tag the rest. Let's make it happen.
Yes, we can
Right.
do that. We can do that. Well, in fact, we decided in our worship team at church that we were going to have a bake off, a
Oh,
macaroni bake off that's coming up this summer. Actually,
mm,
that's how
okay.
serious it
Right.
is.
You gotta take video for that one, cause I,
I'm going to have to do it, and I'm going to
yeah,
send it to you because it's serious business.
yeah. Apparently. Uh, so this is the last question of the show, which is, where can people find out more about you?
Well, I am on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And my website is my name, www.briannacolon, BREANNACOLON. Looks like colon, but it's Cologne, BriannaColon.com. And on social media, all of my social media names are at the @ at I am Brianna Colon. You can find me on any of those platforms if you just type in at I am Brianna Colon. Easy to find. And our
Awesome.
company is integrityfsi.com. That's the website for the company, integrityfsi.com. Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Y'all be safe. We out.
Bye
Peace.
bye.